I met Bill because when I was the CEO of Homestead, I asked my board, I said, with all due respect, I don't think any of you guys really know how to help me take Homestead from the level it was at the time, which was maybe $20 or $30 million in revenue, to the next level. And I need some help. I want someone who can really relate to being a CEO, dealing with the day-to-day issues of hiring and firing people, of motivating a team, of designing new products. And Bill's name came up. And so I sort of got put into the gauntlet of trying to get Bill to be your coach, which is not an easy thing to do. Finally, Bill agreed to take a meeting, and over a probably 45-minute period, he just sort of drilled me and got to know me and asked me a lot of questions about random things, and we hit it off about sports and about starting a company and things like that. But then after maybe 2 weeks, I got invited back again for another 45-minute session, then another 45-minute session, and then finally one day he called me up on the phone in his great voice. Bill Campbell, I can start working with you in 2 months, you know. And so I thought, oh, great, awesome. And then I thought maybe I would get the same treatment and I would get, see him for a few minutes every now and then, but no. All of a sudden, appointments showed up on my calendar for the whole next year every 2 weeks for an hour and a half. And that was the start of an amazing relationship where I spent time with him pretty much, probably twice a month for almost 10 years now. He's taught me that I think nobody else has shown me in the same way, has been how important other people are in life, not just in business, but in life in general. And certainly the secret to his success is the way that he builds relationships with other people, and the way he thinks about other people as customers, as partners, as fellow board members, as colleagues, and the way he builds those relationships leads down the path of success for him. And he's shown me that is one of the very, very critical parts of being successful, not just in business, but also in life. I think everybody knows the legend of Bill Campbell and the fact that people call him Coach. I've never called him Coach, actually. I've always just called him Bill. And I think that there is that legend that he has coached so many famous people, way more successful and famous people than myself. But I think the impact that he's really had is on the non-high profile people, on the smaller people, on the folks such as myself who have had some success, been fortunate enough to do well in Silicon Valley, but we're not just building name brand companies, we're out pursuing our passions, building companies that we believe need to exist because the world needs them. And the list of people that he's influenced and knows and has met with and helped and counseled is unbelievable. Even at Intuit, where I actually worked for a while after we were acquired by Intuit, the amount of people that he mentored, spent time with, the number of different lunches and dinners and trips and outings that he does on an annual basis or a quarterly basis is mind-boggling. And I think the reach of those people, the impact he's had on those people, is what I'll remember Bill for the most, and that I think is the reason that he's really had this incredible unequaled impact on the Valley, and we're so lucky to have him every day here, kind of keeping us honest. There's a lot of fun stories about Bill. One is that Bill has as most people know, Bill has a greeting that he gives everybody, which is a giant bear hug. And if he's never met you, he maybe doesn't give it to you. But then the second he's met you one time, even by the end of that meeting, he gives you this huge hug. And so that's, of course, been a big part of our relationship. We've had thousands of those hugs. And before he gives me a hug every time, he puts me back like this, and then he looks at my shirts, and he tells me it's the ugliest shirt I've ever seen in my life, which only makes me want to wear more shirts like this. I wore one today just in honor of you, Bill. This is for you, buddy. Is to wear these crazy bright shirts. But then what's funny about him is that after he has that bravado, he'll say something like, "What do you think about my outfit? What do you think about do I think I look okay? Do you think?" And then he starts sending me like links to clothes and things like that. So he actually, in his own way, we're fashion buddies. And so I think that's not a side that most people would see of him that is I find very amusing. And even though it usually comes with a lot of F-bombs, the type of humor and the feeling of the humor is pretty kid friendly and sweet. He's a very sweet guy. The foundation of Bill's coaching is stories. He tells everything in a form of a story, and he often will tell you the same story, which I'm sure he doesn't think that I remember from the last time he told me, but he'll apply it in a different way to make a different point. And it takes a while sometimes to figure out the point that he's making, but once you figure it out, it's often quite poignant. And so he relates everything through telling stories about the time that the sales force had to be reorganized, or the time that he had to pull somebody out of a meeting and he fired one of them and promoted the other person, and then went back into the room and finished the meeting with the people in different, these crazy stories, or a football story, or he tells many stories about Homestead, PA. And I think that is at the root. A big part of him is that he came from such a blue-collar family and kind of climbed his way up and has been very cognizant of that. And so when he coaches, he's often comparing you and your struggles and battles to the ones he's had, or other people that he's known and challenges that they've had. And so that becomes very empathetic. He becomes very empathetic and teaches through that empathy. As opposed to didactic. He's not telling you what to do. He never ever tells you what to do. He simply listens to what's going on and then tries to share some different stories or experiences that he's had, and then lets you sort of draw your own conclusions. But what happens is that you walk out of every meeting that you have with Bill Campbell feeling completely charged up, like you can take on the world, and 100% better than when you walked in the room, even though sometimes there's not a single piece of concrete evidence of that, or one instruction that you can point to. It's just the way that he makes you feel about your current predicament that kind of causes you to go out and do great things. I think that Bill's heart is, people don't know a lot about his philanthropic side, and his not just his giving, but of resources, but his heart for people who are in need, people who don't have things that we all have here in Silicon Valley. And I think that that's another part of his legacy that has really taught me a lot about how to give back, and not just give back with dollars, or not just give back with volunteer time, but to actually give back with your actions. And one story that has always struck with me that completely changed my life was how Bill tells how he became mentored by somebody at his very first job after he was a football coach. I believe it was at Eastman Kodak, and he was taken under the wing of a woman who helped him kind of learn the ropes of marketing, and by his own admission, he didn't know very much about business at all. And she taught him and tutored him, and at the end, all she wanted him to do was to make him promise that he would give that gift to other people, and that if he were to find success, and I believe he went from that out to, he might have been 2 companies, then he went out to Apple, that if he found success, that he would do the same thing. And so one of the things that he has imparted upon myself and many of the other CEOs that he coaches is to do the same thing as well. And so actually, after I had some success in my career, I started doing that, and so I now actually also do coaching, not at the same level by any means as Bill, but with young people who are trying to make a difference in the world through entrepreneurship, and I think that's something that's a form of giving that he does. That if everybody in the Valley took a moment to do that, and just took an hour a month, even, this place would be a much more amazing and healthy and well-rounded place than it is today. Bill, I just say, besides all the things I can't say to you on camera, because I don't like to use swear words on camera, I would just like to say thanks for what you do for this valley, and for people like myself, and the many hours of advice you've given. I'd say I ignore about 90% of it, but the 10% that I choose to follow is really spot on, and I want to thank you for that.